This is already video number 13. You know, sometimes it really just overwhelms me at the number of videos that we've already created, and actually this is really just the surface, so to speak. We're just scratching the surface, and there are really a lot more videos that are about to come. And so I appreciate that you're subscribing to this channel so that you will be duly alerted when the new videos come out. All the videos that have been made from videos 1 to 12 are actually just talking about task 2 writing, and we haven't even tackled task 1 writing. And of course all of these are just for the writing test, and there are still videos that will come out that will deal with the listening test, for example, or the speaking test and the reading test. So what I have in front of you right now is the summary of all the videos that have been recorded already. And so what I want to do is I want to highlight in red all the videos that are actually the training videos, with the rest of the videos being the support videos. So we started with video 1 talking about the A1 style, and video 2 talking about the A2 style, or the kill essay. And then succeeding these are supporting videos that somehow strengthen the lessons for videos 1 and 2. And then come video 5, we now began to introduce the new lesson on the kill and bury. So that is another training video, not a supporting video. And related to that is video number 6, which sampled actual passer essays that use the kill and bury style. Come video 7, remember videos 1 to 6 are for one-sided question prompts, or question prompts that only mention one side of an issue. This was discussed in detail in all the previous videos. Come video 7 all the way up to video 12, and today's video number 13, we are now talking about crossover essays, or essays that explicitly mention two sides of a given issue or controversy. We began that series with still the discussion of the kill and bury style, but this time it's for the crossover. So that's another training video, and video 8 was a supporting video for video 7 there. Alright, so video 9 and 10 are now the videos that begin the discussion on the B styles. So those are the training videos as well. And then all the other videos that surround it are actually videos 11 and 12 are in support of the B1 and the B2 style. Now what I should say is video 12 is now the primer to the B3 style, and that's what we're gonna be discussing today. So again, I would recommend that you watch the videos from the very beginning rather than skip to the videos that you think might be interesting to you, because if you do that, for example, if you start at video number 7, then you're already at the crossover styles, then you're gonna find yourself kind of confused by the terminologies that are being used. For example, what is the kill and what is the bury, and what is a crossover question prompt. So since the writing test is indeed the most difficult of all the writing tests, arguably, I think it will not be difficult to challenge that thinking. Then it is only proper that you go through the lessons in their correct order, rather than jumping to the middle videos and trying to understand the lessons from then. I'm sure you're gonna end up in confusion. Alright, so now we are into video number 13. So if you remember from the discussion of the crossovers, we first talked about the A2 style, which is also applicable for the one-sided question prompts, and then we proceeded to discuss the B styles. So B1 style and B2 style were discussed respectively in videos number 9 and 10. So as discussed in the previous videos, the B styles were really created out of a very important question that came out in my classes. And that question, the students actually asked the question if it's possible for the writer to argue for both sides of the issue. So indeed, that was a very important question, and I remember saying that knowledge is actually a result of asking questions. So please do not presume to understand a lesson until these lessons, until all the questions that you have in your head are duly answered completely. And so out of that question, we now began to investigate whether indeed for the IELTS standards, if indeed the writer can discuss both sides of an issue. And we did scour all the model answers and did find that this is indeed a possibility. But the tricky part is that when you argue for both sides of an issue, it's really not just one kind of argument. There are really styles about it. So the B1 style is what we call the coexist, and the B2 style is now what we call the it depends. All of these are encapsulated in cardinal rules. So for example, cardinal rule number 4 now states that in all B styles, the writer should treat both sides of the issue in balance. It is this balance of the two sides which raises a dilemma and necessitates a problem solver, wherein in the B1 style, the writer argues that both sides of the issue can coexist at the same time right now. Alright, so there's no more question. We can just argue that both sides of the issue should be implemented as we speak. But there are certain question prompts wherein it's not possible. You can indeed argue for both sides of the issue, such as in the B2 style, but only upon the implementation of certain depending circumstances. The keyword there is depending, so this is the it depends video. So if you want to find out what that means, if you somehow jump to this video from the earlier videos, then do just please refer to video number 11, where was that 11 or was that 10, which discussed the that was number 10, which discussed the B2 style or the it depends. So now just as a reminder, please do not forget all of these cardinal rules. We are now in cardinal rule 4, but the 3 earlier cardinal rules were discussed in the earlier videos. We call them cardinal rules because there's no way you can break these rules. Once these rules are broken, then please consider that that's no longer a band 7 essay, and the next thing you're hoping for is a band 6.5 essay. So now we're going into the B3 style, and so we will first extrapolate the rule that explains the B3 style. So in all B styles, should the writer treat both sides of the issue in balance? The writer should treat both sides of the issue in balance. It is this balance of the two sides which raises a dilemma and necessitates a problem solver, wherein now for the B3 style, what you can say is something like in the B3 style, the writer argues that both sides of the issue can coexist at the same time, but only upon the implementation of a certain compromise action. So the keyword there is compromise. So we can now duly label the B3 style as the compromise essay. The B1 style is what we can call the coexist essay. The B2 style is what we call the it depends essay, and the B3 style is now what we call the compromise essay. So how is that gonna look like? So what I did is I extracted a question prompt. This is actually not from August 20. This is from Cambridge 12, one of the task 2 questions from Cambridge 12, and the question was asking, at the present time, the population of some countries includes a relatively large number of young adults compared to older people. Do the advantages of this situation outweigh the disadvantages? Now, clearly the question is a crossover because the prompt is asking, we should label this as the prompt there. It's very important to determine what is the prompt so that you will know exactly what you should be arguing. So what you should be arguing are the advantages of this situation, and the disadvantages of this situation. So this situation, of course, clearly refers to the situation wherein the population of some countries include a relatively large number of young adults compared to older people. Do the advantages of this situation outweigh the disadvantage? Please let me emphasize that this essay is not a comparison of the advantages of young adults and the advantages of older people. What you should therefore say is the advantages of having more young adults versus the disadvantages of having more young adults there. But since, as cardinal rule number 2 states, everything that's in the question prompt should be explicitly expounded, expanded, explained, and elaborated in the essay, then please do not forget to somehow inject the idea of older people in the essay, but not as a central line of argumentation, but only in support of arguments on the advantages and disadvantages of having more young people than older people. So that being the case, when you discuss the advantages of having more young adults and disadvantages of having more young adults, then what we can do here is we are now faced with a situation where the advantages and the disadvantages are somewhat balanced, and so this is typically a B essay. Remember, the B essay is really an essay where two sides of an issue are quite balanced. In fact, you can refer to B as the balanced essay, an acronym for balanced. And so that being the case, the way to resolve this issue is either through the B1 style, the B2 style, or the B3 style. So let's investigate why cannot we use the B1 style and the B2 style, and why is it only proper that we use the B3 style. So as you can see, what you're doing here is you're trying to compare the advantages and disadvantages of a particular situation. Let me underline that so that we won't get lost. So take note that disadvantages are indeed problems, and problems, remember, as was stated from the very get-go from video 1, problems, task 2 writing is indeed a problem-solving exercise. So since you are now discussing the disadvantages of having more young people than older people, then you are now obligated to somehow solve these disadvantages. Otherwise, if a single disadvantages is left unsolved or unresolved, then that's already a band 6.5 at the maximum, because it's in violation of the very nature of task 2 writing, which is to solve problems. I wish we could avoid discussing the problems to begin with, but cardinal rule states that everything that's in the question prompt should be in the essay. So since we saw the term disadvantages, then we now know that we are now obligated to discuss problems or disadvantages. And that being the case, we cannot be problem solvers unless we solve these problems. So the third step I would recommend is, for example, the advantages will be mentioned in the first body paragraph and the disadvantages will be mentioned in the second body paragraph. What we can now do is to inject a third body paragraph that will now resolve the disadvantages. And upon doing so, once you resolve the disadvantages, then we can now say that the advantages of this situation outweigh the disadvantages. So that's how it looks like in structure. And to see how it works out in an essay, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna type an entire essay in front of you right now. Remember, from the previous videos, I've always been encouraging everybody to implement the bulleting stage, wherein you invest 5 minutes of your time just to properly create the arguments or the keywords that you will use for the major portions of the essay. So for example, you can cite a number of advantages, and then you can cite a number of disadvantages, and then you can cite a number of solutions to the disadvantages. But for this essay, what I did is I actually already created the bullets for this essay, and I'm now proceeding to the writing stage. And so remember, for task 2 writing, you are supposed to write this essay at 40 minutes. Since we have already invested 5 minutes for the bulleting stage, then maybe we can invest 30 minutes to write the essay proper. and that will leave us with 5 more minutes, at which point we can now edit the output. The editing stage is now at 30 minutes there, I mean at 5 minutes there. So that's a total of 40 minutes. So what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna write the essay for you, disregarding the bulleting stage because I've already done this part. So we are now beginning with the introduction of the essay. So in the previous videos, again, I'm reminding that we do not have the video for the introductory elements yet, so just wait for that, because I've decided to focus first on the body paragraphs and the concluding paragraphs, and essentially these are the argumentative styles that we're talking about, the A, the B, and the C styles. And so that being the case, the lesson on the introductory video, introductory element, the video on the introductory element is still about to come later as we finish the A to C styles. The reason why I did that is because quite frankly, the introductory paragraph has really very little impact on your score. The essay is really all about the arguments that you posit in the body paragraphs and how you solve the problem that has been thrust upon you. So really, the band 7 is really the essay where you create the right arguments and the right problem solver. It's not really about how strong or how weak your introductory paragraph is. But I understand people who would like to understand the lesson on the introductory paragraph, so I'm just gonna give you a peek on the elements of the introduction, so similar to the past videos that I've done. So for this video, I'm gonna begin with a hook statement, and for the hook statement, remember that the hook is a brief discussion, a brief statement on the central topic of the question proposition. So the question proposition is really talking about population of young adults there. So we can say that we can just have a statement about young adults. Young adults do serve very important functions in the determination of a country's success. So that's what you call the hook statement, and immediately following that is now what you call the paraphrase. So the paraphrase is a rephrasing of the question proposition itself. So there, so we can see the question proposition over here, and that extends all the way there. And so we will just rephrase that accordingly. We will have the marker by saying something like, in this slide, this is a rhetorical marker to bridge the hook over there and the paraphrase over there. So in this slide, a question now arises as to whether or not it would pose advantages for a country should they have a notable number of young adults over their older counterparts. So that's now what you call the paraphrase, wherein I just rephrase all of that there. Okay, so if you notice, there's really a very little redundancy. I'm really just typing out of I really just type this paraphrase based on the idea of it. And you know, when I write essays, I just pretend I'm speaking, and so I think that's a good idea. Since you're in the writing stage anyway, the objective of the writing stage is to just finish the essay, to implement all that you've done in your bullets. So you might just want to write like the way that you speak, and then if you want to go back to the essay, you still have 5 minutes to do the corresponding editing, wherein you can improve the wordings or the grammar or all linguistic elements that is supposed to be done in the editing stage of 5 minutes. Let's keep the editing stage over there just as a reminder there. So the third element is now what we call the the forecast statement. So the forecast statement is supposed to give an idea as to the scope of the discussion in the essay there. So maybe we can have something like this essay will attempt to investigate the pros and cons of such a situation there. And then the final element is now what we call the thesis statement, or the statement of the writer's opinion there. So we can have the thesis statement by saying that this writer, however, feels that this scenario is indeed ultimately advantageous to a country there. All right. So what I'm gonna say is this is going to be this situation is gonna be advantageous, and in order to arrive at that conclusion, then what I will do is I will cite the disadvantages, and I will propose compromise options in order to mitigate or minimize the impact of the disadvantages. So that's it. That's your entire introductory paragraph. But take note that the only mandatory element is really the paraphrase. I mean, you can just add an essay that just mentions whatever the two sides of the issue are, and that's already your introductory paragraph. And the rest of it are actually just stylistic elements, like the hook or the forecast statement. They're really just stylistic elements. They're not really very mandatory. Personally, when I write essays, I do have the hook statement and the paraphrase, and I kind of stop there, and I really don't like the forecast statement at all, or the thesis statement at all. But it doesn't mean that it's not correct. You can indeed have these elements as well for you. Some of my students actually write their introduction with all the complete elements, because according to them, it actually gets them started. I mean, it gets the words pouring into their head, and then suddenly all the vocabularies just pop up in their heads. I mean, if it works for them, then I wouldn't argue against it. So find out what works best for you. And for me, what works best for me is just the hook and the paraphrase, and that's enough for me to get myself started. So now we're gonna talk about the advantages of having more young people than older people. And so we can begin with a marker by saying that, to begin with, having more young adults can indeed be advantageous to a country, primarily because young people do feed the industries greatly. Okay, so that's what we call the topic sentence, and now I'm going to proceed to explain this. And the explanation therefore is what we now call the supporting arguments. We can say particularly young people being more energetic and highly highly physical, highly capable of physical work can indeed fulfill the needs of the economy for labor intensive positions, that which is difficult for older individuals to assume there. So if you notice, I just found a way to inject older people, although it's not really the central line of argumentation. I just injected it in order to comply with the cardinal rule, which states that everything that's in the essay should be expounded, expanded, explained, and elaborate. Everything in the question prompt should be in the essay itself. I'm now moving on to my second topic sentence. I can say that young people are likewise very idealistic. That's the topic sentence, and I can now proceed with the supporting argument. And this results in aggressive societal changes that are needed in order to ensure the smooth function of various societal aggressive changes are needed in order to ensure the smooth functions of various societal needs. Maybe an example will help here, such as in the promotion of gender equality, where women are now empowered to work and to chart their own course there. Alright, so now you have two topic sentences. This is the first topic sentences. If this were to be the bulleting stage, then I would just write feed the industries, and from that phrase I already have a general idea of what I'm going to argue. If this were to be in the bulleting stage, then I will just underline this word idealistic, and from that word I already have a general idea of what I'm going to argue about. So those are two topic sentences, and maybe I can inject a third topic sentence, which is going to talk about subsidy. A third benefit is that younger people, being healthier, will pose less of a burden to a country's health subsidy system there. Alright, so I can just underline this phrase, health subsidy system, and I already know generally what I'm gonna talk about if that were to be in the bulleting stage. But I'm already in the writing stage, so I will just have to I'll just have to explain this further. As is well known, the older a person gets, the more diseases they acquire, and the more they will need to rely on government subsidies for their various health needs there. Alright, so all of those are the three advantages that I can think of having a larger number of young adults in the population demographic. I'm now moving on to the disadvantages, and that is now going to be my second body paragraph. And maybe I will begin with a marker by saying notwithstanding, disadvantages do exist as well if young adults form the larger demographic. Okay, alright, so as is well known, this is now my topic sentence. Young people do tend to be highly impulsive there, impulsive, and this would mean that they would make decisions rashly and out of emotion rather than through careful thought there, as is known in older individuals there. This may pose problems societally, such as in a rise of an undue rise of criminality there, that which is indeed mostly perpetrated by the youth there. So there, that's one disadvantage that we can mention. We can also mention the disadvantage so wait, let me just underline that word impulsive there. Maybe we can add more to this, like impulsive or rash and reckless there. Alright, so we're just throwing the vocabulary so that we tend to score higher if we have higher level vocabularies. And then another topic sentence we could use is that another possible disadvantage is the lack of experience there. Alright, there. So alright, so adults have certainly, older adults have certainly experienced more in life and this contributes to their wisdom. With that said, younger people would fall into unnecessary mistakes that would have been avoided if older adults were around to provide due guidance there. Alright, maybe you can just say this may prove detrimental in companies as well as in various endeavors there. Alright, so I'm not really happy with the way I expounded on that. I'm just finding a way to fit everything into a page there. So what I want to do right now is I want to show you the entirety of the advantages and disadvantages. And so we are already somehow complying with the two sides of the issue, the advantages and the disadvantages. So you can see the advantages over there at the beginning of the body portion, and then we now have the disadvantages over here as well. So having undergone this training, many of the students know that this is not yet the end of the essay. I mean, maybe we can cite that the advantages and disadvantages do coexist, such as in the B1 style. But of course, that's gonna log you a band 6.5 because you have actually left the disadvantages unresolved, and that is in violation of the need to duly solve all problems in the essay. Neither can we do the B2 style, which is the it depends. And so maybe you might be tempted into saying that it therefore depends on the situation of a country there. Like if a country needs more industries, then it would be beneficial to have more young adults. But if the country doesn't have too much industry, then having more young adults would be disadvantageous. I don't think that's gonna make sense, because again, if you say it depends, then you are still not actually resolving the disadvantages. You're just saying that the disadvantages still exist whether or not the two depending circumstances are applied. So in order to settle this, so this is really a good tip for you, like when you see advantages or disadvantages or problems in the essay, then one way to overcome or to eliminate the problems is by implementing the compromise. So as you can see over here, what we now have are two problems, like their impulsiveness and their lack of experience. And so what I will do here is now I will inject a third paragraph where I will now begin to address all the problems as cited there. So maybe we can begin by saying, given this, these problems from the youth can indeed easily be mitigated by ensuring that older people be duly reminded to perform their roles. Older people, despite being fewer in number, be duly reminded to perform their responsibility of serving as the lights of the young ones. Alright. Young ones, I'm sorry. Alright. Older people should bear the duty of constantly being the source of inspiration and stabilizing figures for the young ones, so as to avoid the undue errors that are a result of impulsiveness or lack of experience there. In this light, even with fewer elders, provided they are culturally empowered to be the role models of the young, a larger young demographic would pose no problems there for society there. So that is now what I call my problem solver. This is really the compromise that the way. Wait, I think what you should now see is the concluding paragraph, which now kind of encapsulates or kind of amplifies all the discussion that has been made in the essay. And it's now going to become clearer for you. So to conclude, indeed, for countries with a larger number of young people will indeed find this situation advantageous economically there. While there may exist some problems that are born out of the naivets of youth, these problems can be easily resolved anyway through the intervention of the wiser older adult population. This being said, the advantages do outweigh the disadvantages in this regard. Alright, so when I make concluding statements, I make sure that number one, I duly summarize all the discussions that have been made in the body paragraph. So for example, this parts, it may be advantageous economically. That's really the first body paragraph. And then this part, that's really the second body paragraph. And this part is now the third body paragraph. So that's what I do when I do the conclusion. I make sure to duly summarize all the body paragraphs into one concluding statement. The second thing I make sure of is that my conclusion will directly answer the question in the question prompt. And if you remember, the question here is, do the advantages of this situation outweigh the disadvantages? So that being said, so as I finish summarizing all the three paragraphs over here, what I did next is to directly answer the question prompt. This being said, the advantages do outweigh the disadvantages in this regard. So that being said, I am sure that I have covered everything. So that is now the classic compromise essay. Really turned out to be the favored argumentative approach among my students, and this argumentative approach really has accounted for more of the passer essays than the other styles like the A1, A2 or B1, B2 styles. I'm just gonna fit all of that in a frame. So this is your introduction over here. This is your question prompt over here, and this is the introduction over here. Let me just be sure about that. I'm just gonna delete all of this, as some of you might get the idea that you'll have to write this into your essay. So let me just delete all of that there. So that's the introductory paragraph there. These are just the definitions to help you understand better the various elements of the introductory paragraph there. And that being said, so let's fit all of that into a frame there. So if you want to go back to it, you can just pause the video at this stage. Alright, and then we're now moving into the body paragraphs over here. So let's just fix all of that together in a frame there. Let's hope that Alright, okay, that's a problem solver has been included there. So there you go. Okay, that's your body paragraph. That's your first body paragraph and your second body paragraph. First body paragraph talked about the advantages, and the second body paragraph talked about the disadvantages. You know, I'm really not happy with the bullets that I used over here, so it's kind of redundant. But since we are under time pressure, and I mean that's really what IELTS writing is all about. It's really a test that puts you under the pressure of time. So it's really like draft writing. So I'm not sure it's gonna score much higher than a band 7, maybe 7.5, hopefully an 8. But the bullets are really a problem here in this part. And then now we're moving into there. So what you have here is the third body paragraph, and this third body paragraph is the all-important problem solver there. And of course, all that conclusion did is to just summarize everything. Okay. So that being said, if there are any questions, remember what I said earlier. The B styles were really motivated by the questions of the students in class, and because of these questions, then we were forced to. I was forced to investigate, and it has now led to the creation of 3 more argumentative styles, and particularly this compromise style, which has indeed resulted in a lot of dreams being fulfilled more than the other styles. So that being said, if there are any questions, please just do posit your questions in the comment boxes below, and I will answer to them as soon as I am free. And do not be ashamed of your questions. It's the questions that actually drive the knowledge. And that being said, we are now going to proceed with video number 14, at which point we will now be discussing task 1 writing. And that's another long C. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting. We are now going to be discussing the C styles when it comes to video 14, and there are 2 more styles to talk about, the C1 and the C2 styles. Okay, everybody, thanks for your diligence and hard work, and don't forget to subscribe, and it will be to your benefit. This will be for your future. I'll see you in the next video. Bye, everybody.